At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to a school unlike anything you've ever seen. Sky High doesn't sit at the end of a long driveway. It floats literally above the clouds, drifting through the sky where no ordinary person could ever find it. Every student here has a superpower. We are introduced to Will through his parents, Steve and Josie Stronghold, two of the most celebrated superheroes alive. Steve hits like a mountain, blessed with strength that can bring down skyscrapers. Josie is pure speed, cutting through the sky before most people realize she's moved. Together, they are the Commander and Jetstream, legendary, unstoppable. By day, they're perfectly ordinary real estate agents in the perfectly ordinary city of Maxwell. Nobody suspects a thing, except their son is about to blow everything up. Today is Will's first day at Sky High, and the pressure is suffocating. His dad walks in glowing with pride. Will, meanwhile, is frantically pretending to struggle with dumbbells because Will Stronghold has not developed a single superpower, not one. Beside him is his best friend Layla, who controls plants with a thought. What she hasn't said out loud is that she's in love with Will, but that's a story for later. Before anyone can breathe, an emergency alert fires off. A massive robot is tearing the city apart. Steve and Josie are suited up and gone before the sentence ends. Steve drives his fist through the machine like paper, pulls the glowing mechanical eye from the robot's head as a trophy, and heads home smiling. Nobody notices what that eye is carrying inside it. A flying school bus arrives, piloted by Ron Wilson, a cheerful man who treats every student like royalty. The moment he hears Will's last name, his eyes go wide. He hands Will a business card. Call anytime. Will pockets it politely. The bus tilts toward the sky and launches into the clouds while every student screams. Moments later, Sky High. Breathtaking. The school hovers above the earth like something out of a dream. Ron explains it moves constantly, so no villain can ever track it down. The seniors are showing off for the newcomers, stretching, sprinting, controlling elements. Then, two figures push through the crowd, Lash and Speed, the school bullies. Lash stretches like elastic. Speed is exactly what his name suggests. They start demanding money from the new kids until a girl steps between them. Her name is Gwen. Poised, confident, stunning, and Will immediately forgets every word she says because he cannot stop staring at her face. This is going to become a problem. Principal Powers welcomes the first years. Then, Coach Boomer slams through the door. Loud, blunt, zero patience. The placement test is beginning. Every student steps onto the stage. They show their power. Coach Boomer decides hero or sidekick. No appeal, no second chance. Zach glows in the dark. Sidekick. Ethan turns into liquid. Sidekick. Magenta shapeshifts, but only into a guinea pig. Sidekick. Then Layla steps up and refuses. She looks Coach Boomer in the eye and says no student should be labeled by ability alone. He points to the sidekick section without a word. She walks over like she just won something. Then it's Will's turn. The room goes quiet. Every expectation in the building lands on him. Show us what you've got. Silence. I don't have any powers. Coach Boomer laughs, obviously joking, so they drop a car on him. Will screams in pain. They throw him across the gym to see if he can fly. He doesn't. He crashes face first into a pile of mats. Complete silence. Will gets assigned to sidekick class and sent to the nurse. The doctor scans him and finds nothing abnormal. Will asks the question he's been dreading. She explains that, when both parents are superheroes, the inheritance gets complicated. In rare cases, the powers cancel each other out entirely. Is there anyone whose parents were both heroes and they still got nothing? Yes, you actually know him. Who? Ron Wilson, your bus driver. That evening, Will tries to tell his father the truth, but Steve is already celebrating. He brings Will into the family's secret underground sanctuary, a vault filled with decades of trophies. He places the robot's glowing eye on a shelf, then holds up a pacifier-shaped device. This belonged to Royal Pain. The day we defeated him was the first day your mother and I fought together. He smiles. One day the three of us will fight side by side. Will smiles. Says nothing. What neither notices is that the robot's eye is a camera. On the other side, Royal Pain and a partner named Stitches are watching every word, every corner of the sanctuary. Will's sidekick class is taught by Mr. Boy, a former sidekick himself, wearing a red and blue suit with the energy of someone not quite over being left behind. When Will mentions his parents, something flickers across Mr. Boy's face. He keeps teaching. Nearby sits War and Peace, radiating hostility like a superpower. His mother is a hero. His father, a supervillain, is in prison. Guess who put him there? Will's dad. Things escalate when Lash and Speed push Ron Wilson around and Will steps between them with zero powers and pure nerve. It works for 10 minutes. At lunch, Lash trips Will deliberately. His tray launches across the cafeteria and dumps directly onto Warren's table. Warren looks down at the mess, looks up at Will. Fire erupts from his hands. The cafeteria becomes a combat zone. Warren throws fireballs. Will runs. Lash trips him again. Will ends up hiding under a table while his friends are targeted. He watches Layla get threatened, and something shifts inside him. Will Stronghold's super strength arrives. He punches Warren with everything he has. Warren crashes across the room. Warren comes back harder, and Will grabs a fire extinguisher and drowns every flame in white foam. Principal Powers drags them both to detention, a room where no powers function. Just two teenagers. She tells Will to decide whether he'll honor his father's legacy or destroy it. Then she leaves. Will tries to reach out. Warren shuts it down. They stare at opposite walls. News of Will's powers spreads. He's transferred to hero class sitting next to Gwen, who offers private tutoring. In class, Professor Medulla pairs them on a heat ray project. Before Will reads the instructions, Gwen uses her technopathy to build the whole thing in under a minute. Will stares. Gwen smiles. Meanwhile, Penny generates clones that physically crowd Layla and the others out of their lunch table. Will sees it, feels bad, does nothing. Later, he apologizes to Layla. She forgives him with conditions. "Tonight you're taking me out for dinner. You owe me." Will promises. That evening, Gwen visits Will's house. His parents love her instantly. She casually mentions she's running homecoming and would be honored if Steve and Josie attended as guests of honor. They agree, without hesitation. Will is completely absorbed, so absorbed he never shows up for Layla's dinner. At the restaurant, Layla waits. Then Warren Peace sits beside her. He works there, and they talk for hours. At one point, he says flatly, "You know you're in love with him, right? You should just tell him." She makes a quiet decision. She's going to homecoming, and she's going to tell Will how she feels. Steve shows Gwen his old yearbook and points to a photo, a student named Sue Tenney, brilliant but classified as a sidekick, who vanished suddenly. Some said she became a villain. Gwen stares at the photo and goes very still. That night, Will walks her home. She asks if he'll go to homecoming with her. He says yes before she finishes. She kisses him. He floats home on pure adrenaline. Next morning, Layla catches Will in the hall and asks if he'll go to homecoming with her. "I'm actually going with Gwen." A pause. A barely visible fracture. "Okay, then I'll go with Warren." "Warren Peace? You don't even know him." "I had dinner with him last night," she says, "while I was waiting for someone who never showed up." She walks away. It lands heavier than Will expected. One night, Steve and Josie are called away. Gwen immediately throws a party. Will almost goes to invite Layla. Gwen steers him downstairs into the family sanctuary and kisses him until the thought evaporates. While they're distracted, Speed lifts the pacifier device from the shelf and disappears. Gwen knew exactly what she was doing. Outside, Layla hears music and steps inside. Gwen spots her, sends Will for drinks, then looks Layla in the eye and says coldly that Will knows how she feels and doesn't feel the same. That he's a hero now, she's a sidekick, and feelings can't bridge that gap. Layla leaves without a word. Will returns and asks what happened. When Gwen tells him cold, unapologetic, Will's whole expression changes. He thinks of every time Layla stood beside him. Every time she said he didn't need powers to be worth something. He ends things with Gwen on the spot. Steve and Josie come home to a wrecked house and shut everything down. Will tries to reach Layla. Nothing. Warren finds him alone. "She loves you. She only went with me to get your attention." That night, Will pages through his father's yearbook and stops cold. Sue Tenney, holding the pacifier device in the photograph. He reaches into his pocket for the business card Ron Wilson gave him on day one. He makes the call. The gymnasium glows. Steve and Josie have arrived as guests of honor. Gwen takes the stage, smiles, then says 3 words that turn the room to ice. "I am Royal Pain." The voice everyone assumed belonged to a man, a modulator built into the suit. The villain everyone thought was gone has been here the whole time, growing up, waiting, planning. Stitches steps forward and hands her the stolen pacifier. She fires it at Steve and Josie. 2 of the most powerful heroes alive shrink before the entire school, reduced to crying, confused toddlers in oversized clothes. Gwen fires into the crowd. Students scramble. Lash, Speed, and Penny block every exit. Layla and the sidekicks don't panic. They find the roof vents and climb. Ron Wilson's bus appears from below the clouds. Will drops through the vents and finds his friends waiting. He looks at the kids, Coach Boomer labeled useless, and says, "It doesn't matter what class anyone put us in. Tonight we fight as a team." Layla looks at him with everything she hasn't said still in her eyes. Will kisses her quickly before she can start yelling. She blinks. They move. Will breaks toward Gwen. The others split. Ethan goes liquid and shoves Lash's head directly into a toilet. Speed trips over a puddle of Ethan on the floor and hits the wall at full velocity. Layla faces Penny's army of clones, but plants don't care how many copies there are. Vines erupt from every surface, wrapping every clone until the hallway is solid green. Then an alarm. Royal pain has killed the anti-gravity system. Sky High has minutes before it drops from the sky. Magenta shifts to guinea pig form and disappears into the pipes toward the control room. Will corners Gwen and tells her calmly that what happened to Sue Tenney was wrong. Being dismissed as a sidekick when she was clearly extraordinary was cruel. But that doesn't give you the right to hurt everyone here. Gwen laughs. Sharp. Empty. You still don't understand. Sue Tenney isn't my mother. I am Sue Tenney. When the pacifier shattered, it turned me into an infant. Stitches raised me. Now I'm back. She fires. Will fights back then, loses his footing for one split second when Layla and Warren appear behind him. That's all Gwen needs. She sends Will flying through an exterior wall, out of the building, plummeting thousands of feet below. And then his mother's power arrives. Flight. Not like a switch, like a memory surfacing. He twists, stabilizes, and rockets upward so fast that when he hits Gwen, it's like a freight train from the sky. She pretends to be unconscious. Will hesitates. One heartbeat. She reaches the control panel and kills the anti-gravity system. Sky High begins to fall. Will flies beneath the school and pushes upward with everything he has, holding a structure the size of a city block off the ground, while everything in him screams. Inside the pipes, Magenta reaches the control room and cuts the right wires. The anti-gravity system roars back. The school steadies, floats, holds. Will drops to his knees in the sky, breathing hard. Stitches tries to escape with the shrunken heroes loaded into the bus. Baby Steve, Baby Josie, tiny principal Powers, but Ron Wilson is already in the driver's seat. He kicks Stitches out midair without blinking. Professor Medulla, still a toddler, but with every genius neuron intact, repairs the pacifier and fires it into the crowd. Everyone is restored. Steve stands up looking confused and extremely embarrassed. In the detention room, Gwen and her crew sit powerless with no way out. The party continues. Will finds Layla and takes her hand. They rise into the sky together, her first time flying, and he kisses her properly, with the city glowing far below and Sky High floating exactly where it belongs. And in one final twist, Ron Wilson stumbles into a vat of toxic waste during cleanup. He surfaces, looks at his hands, and realizes something extraordinary has finally happened. The bus driver has powers. He deserves it. That's Sky High, a movie about identity and the truth, that whatever label someone puts on you says nothing about who you'll become. Will started with nothing. No powers, no place, just a name he wasn't sure he could carry. He ended it having saved an entire school not because he finally got powers, but because he made the right choices when it mattered. Drop a comment, were you Team Layla from the beginning, and did Gwen's reveal hit you out of nowhere, or did you see it coming? If you watched this whole breakdown and still haven't subscribed, the button is right there. Every person who skips it misses the next one. Don't be that person. Subscribe, hit notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.